All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another post-fight reaction. Keyshawn Davis has just pitched an absolute shutout against Nahir Albright. A dominant display from start to finish. Two fights now between these two guys. One a 10-rounder, one a 12-rounder. For me, the first fight, Keyshawn won 8 out of 10 rounds. Today, he won 12 out of 12 rounds. I have my scorecard up on the screen. As you can see, 118 to 108 in favor of Keyshawn Davis. The official scorecards were 117 to 109, 118 to 108, and 118 to 108. As you can all tell, that doesn't work out. That is not 12 rounds to nil. The reason for that is Keyshawn Davis was deducted 2 points in the 7th round for basically doing a suplex on Nahir Albright. We're going to talk about that. In terms of Keyshawn Davis's performance today, though, terrific performance. All right, it wasn't a barnstorming fight. It wasn't. You're never going to go back and watch that fight. If you haven't watched the fight, go and watch the highlights. Rounds 10, 11, and 12 are lively. They're entertaining. Up until then, it is just a gritty, terrible mess of a fight. And here, Albright spent most of that fight just holding on to Keyshawn Davis, which made it very difficult for Keyshawn Davis to get into any sort of groove, for the styles to mesh at all. And like I said, it did turn into a bit of a mess of a fight. It wasn't clean. It wasn't something that you're going to go back and watch. It wasn't very entertaining until, like I said, late in that fight. When Nahir Albright started to slow, Keyshawn Davis was able to find some space and actually land some combinations which hurt Nahir Albright. Nahir Albright just finding the final bell. But let's talk about the one negative in the fight. We'll talk about the one negative, and then we'll talk about all the positives, because there is a lot of positives for Keyshawn Davis. You know how big a fan I am of him. But I said in my preview, Keyshawn Davis is still, for me, somebody that is a little bit undisciplined and a little bit immature when he competes sometimes. We saw it, almost in this whole timeline between Davis and Albright brothers. Like, we have the incident where he wins the first fight but gets caught with marijuana, so it gets turned to a no contest. We then have Kelvin Davis versus Nahir Albright, and we see them fighting in the tunnels. We see Keyshawn Davis missing weight, and then today he suplexes a guy where he doesn't really need to do it, and there is a lot of risk in that. He gets deducted 2 points today. It doesn't matter. It was a landslide victory for him, even with the 2 points deduction. But, in a harder, tougher world title fight, you're not going to have that sort of ability to say, well, I'm so far ahead, unless you are, winning a fight like Shakur was against Teofimo Lopez or Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios. But those are just unbelievable performances by fighters. Keyshawn Davis can't be risking incidents like this. And not only are you deducting yourself 2 points, but you're also putting yourself at risk of getting disqualified, of your opponent saying, oh, well, I'm behind. You've just done an illegal move. Shit, when you threw me on my side there, my shoulder is really, really sore. I don't think I can continue. We'll have to reschedule. You risk stuff like that, and it was really unnecessary, because Keyshawn Davis was winning every single round up until that 7th. It wasn't necessary. I understand why he did it. Don't get me wrong. Nahir Albright made that fight just a shitty, scrappy mess, kept holding on. The referee really needed to say to Nahir Albright, you keep holding on, I'm going to start deducting points from you. He should have given him a warning. He should have deducted a point from Nahir Albright, because he did. All he did was hold on and grab onto Keyshawn Davis, and you know what? At some point, Keyshawn Davis just snapped. He says, I can't get into rhythm. I can't do what I want to do. I can't go to work here because this guy just keeps grabbing hold of me. So a bit of a brain snap, flips him over, gets deducted 2 points. He can't afford to do that in future fights. That's the one negative. Everything else for Keyshawn Davis, great fight, pitched a shutout, showed all his skills. Even in a fight today where it's not a fight Keyshawn Davis wants to be any part of. He wants a fight where he can create distance, he can counterpunch, he can use his jab, land combinations, have a structural, technical boxing match with somebody. We didn't get that opportunity today. He had somebody that wanted to clinch, make it a mess, an unorthodox, a weird fighter in Nahir Albright anyways. He's lanky, he's rangy, he ducks, and he just bobs and moves weird. He's just an odd person to fight. And Keyshawn Davis, already up against that type of style, and then he's got him holding on to the whole entire fight, he was still able to be the dominant fighter, win those clinches, get him off him. In those clinches, Nahir Albright was holding on, but he wasn't landing any punches. Keyshawn Davis was able to land some punches over the top to the body, separate, and then go back to his work, pivot away. So for Keyshawn Davis, I thought it was a very good fight to get a little bit more experience against somebody that, isn't that Olympic type fighter that he's grown up fighting. It's not. There's a few fighters around the world that at the top level are going to fight like that. There's not many, but in the case that Keyshawn Davis does have to fight one, he's had this experience of how to deal with it. Obviously, you don't want these type of fights. They're not enjoyable to watch. They're not fun. Keyshawn Davis is not going to be able to do his best work, and that's ultimately why we get a decision. I thought Keyshawn Davis was going to be able to stop Nahir Albright. I thought Nahir Albright was going to offer a little bit more, and Keyshawn was going to be able to counterpunch, but Nahir Albright obviously knew that as soon as I let my hands fly, something's coming back. So I have to make this a different fight. But I thought Nahir Albright just approached it like shit. He looked terrible. He offered barely nothing. And for Keyshawn Davis, the guy that struggled with the weight coming into it, the fact that Keyshawn Davis was the stronger one in the later rounds, I don't know what Nahir Albright was up to, but it wasn't good. Keyshawn Davis' performance today, he landed a lot of power punches. All right, the jab was starting off well, but when we started going into those clinches, he really wasn't able to consistently land that jab. I thought the body work, once again, I mean, he did it to Dennis Berenchuk. He did it to Jermaine Ortiz. And even today, doing that left hook to the body, followed up to a left hook to the head, it was very, very good. And it probably did slow Nahir Albright down by the end of the fight. I think Keyshawn Davis, when he did get that separation, we saw how good he was, and he did almost find that finish. He was able to do longer combinations, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 punch combinations, throw his hands, uppercuts, hooks to the head, hooks to the body, and go to work. But up until about the 10th round, it was just a clinch-heavy fight where Keyshawn Davis was able to land the odd power punch, the odd jab, throw in clinches, and it wasn't anything spectacular. It wasn't anything nice to watch. There was a few times when Nahir Albright did come forward and Keyshawn Davis was able to pivot, counterpunch, catch and counter, all sorts of stuff. But it was very far and few in between until later on in that fight. And Keyshawn Davis, a scrappy, messy fight, he was still able to find just enough distance to land punches in the clinch. I think later on in that fight, we saw what he's going to be able to do against fighters that do give him that distance. As soon as he does have that distance to let his hands fly, land his combinations, he'll pick you apart. He is so precise with his punches. He's so quick with his punches. And I think that's something that Nahir Albright struggled with in the clinches and during that fight was he'd get in close, or Keyshawn Davis would throw his hands, land 2 punches before Nahir Albright was able to throw one, or even realize that the punches were being thrown. The jab is so snappy to the body, to the head, and Nahir Albright was just outclassed once again. And Keyshawn Davis, we might as well talk about what's next. We basically covered the fight. There wasn't a whole lot to cover, like I said. It was a clinch-heavy fight. Wasn't very entertaining. Keyshawn Davis was able to assert his dominance throughout the fight nonetheless. Did the better work, landed the crisper, cleaner, bigger punches. Late on in the fight, was able to get some space, land combinations, almost gets Nahir Albright out of there. He's a tough guy to get out of there, so there's really no negatives there for Keyshawn Davis. He did what he had to do. He got a wide decision. What's next for Keyshawn Davis? Now, he misses weight for this fight. Gets interviewed after the fight. He says, I'm struggling at this weight still. Maybe 140, but most likely 147. For me, he has an opportunity August 8th to fight for a world title, win it, and then move up. And I think that's what I'd prefer to see him do. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Lindolfo Delgado was set to take on Teofimo Lopez for that vacant IBF title August 8th. Teofimo Lopez declines. He says, I'm moving up to welterweight, as we sort of already knew. Next in line is Oscar Duarte. Oscar Duarte gets offered that fight. Oscar Duarte just had that very tough fight against Angel Fierro on the David Benavidez versus Zerda Ramirez card. He declines the offer. Says, I'm not ready. I'm not gonna be able to get ready for that fight. Keyshawn Davis today has had a fight where he took no damage at all. He took one right hand in that 5th round, where that was probably the only thing that Nahir Albright did all fight. It was possibly the only round you could have given to Nahir Albright. I didn't, because just because you land one good punch, and it was a good clean punch, doesn't mean you win the round. You have to follow it up. And he landed that clean punch a minute and a half into round 5 and then did nothing for the rest of the round. Keyshawn Davis was able to reset, readjust, and go again, even though he was the one that looked kind of hurt. He was the one that you thought, oh, has he just been wobbled? But Nahir Albright just didn't test whether he was wobbled or not. So even in that 5th round, Keyshawn Davis ate a good punch, but there was nothing else behind it. That was probably the only bit of damage he took today, and didn't look to me like there was any cuts. His brain got probably rattled a little bit, but that's it. So he should be ready to go August 8th to take on Lindolfo Delgado for that vacant IBF title. And that's what I would want to see from him. I think you go in there, you beat Lindolfo Delgado. I think Keyshawn Davis is much better. You go, you win that title. It's the last time you'll have to make this weight. At least you have a world title in this division. Then you move up to welterweight, because you move up to welterweight, you're not coming back down. All right. And if you want to be a pound for pound star, you got to collect belts as you go. So you might as well collect one whilst you're here, even if it's just one, and then you move up, because then you win a few titles at welterweight. You say, well, look at that. I've won titles in the divisions below, rather than just skipping a whole division. I don't see Keyshawn Davis going much higher than super welterweight. I don't think he's big enough. So, once you go to welterweight, there is some big names there, some big money, some big fights, some great names to have on the resume, but I'd still like to see you collect that belt. In terms of if he is going to go to 147, Devin Haney. That's the fight. That's the fight everybody wants to see. It's the one that's most likely. There's no other real fights at 140. Obviously, the other guy, Shakur Stevenson, we're not going to see Shakur Stevenson take on Keyshawn Davis. They're too close. So you fight Lindor for the guard, you move up, you start going. Your Ryan Garcias, your Rolly Ramirez, your Devin Haney's. There's plenty of big fights there. Plenty of belts to collect, plenty of money to make. And that's what I would like to see him do. Let's go through some of the other results before we finish up here. Yan Santana defeats Christian Cruz by unanimous decision, 96-94, 98-92, 97-93. I thought Cruz got absolutely shafted with those decisions. I'm not necessarily saying that Santana deserved to lose that fight, or, maybe there was a draw. But 98-92 is fucking criminal. And I feel bad for Cruz because he brought the action. And I think I didn't score these fights live. I was just sort of watching them as they went. But if you scored that fight and you told me that Cruz won it, I wouldn't be surprised at all. A draw, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Because the fight was very, very, very competitive. Cruz was on the front foot. He was asserting himself in that fight. 98-92, 97-93 is a fucking piss take. And then it gets even worse in the next fight. Kelvin Davis versus Peter Dobson. A split decision, 92-98 in favor of Dobson, 99-91 in favor of Davis, 97-93 in favor of Davis. This is another fight that I thought Kelvin Davis won. He didn't win it by a lot. Probably 96-94, 97-93. But how the fuck can you have a swing of 99-91 and a swing of 98-92? I don't get it. I don't know what they're watching. I don't know why they are scoring a fight like this. It's dreadful, man. It is terrible. Brian Norman Jr. defeats Josh Wagner in round 2. A doctor stoppage, a very weird fight. Absolute mess. Brian Norman Jr. all over him. Josh Wagner offered nothing. I don't know why Josh Wagner was in that ring. Brian Norman Jr. drops him in the second round. I think it was 10 or 15 seconds into that second round. He lands a good left hook to the head and then a left hook to the body. Followed it up with a flurry of punches. Drops Wagner. Wagner's on the floor until about 9, 10, 11 seconds. The ref counts him. I swear he gets to 10 whilst Wagner's on the floor. Lets him stand up. You can tell he's not in any state to continue. Lets him continue. Brian Norman Jr. then applies the pressure again. Wagner goes down once more. Goes over to the doctor. Complains about his shoulder. Obviously just looking for a way out of this fight. The doctor grants him that way out. It's a TKO victory to Brian Norman Jr. And once again, I'm baffled from what the fuck I've seen. Why was Josh Wagner allowed to get off the floor and continue? Dreadful, dreadful decision. But a good win from Brian Norman Jr. Needs to step up well above that level. We're going to talk more about this during the week, mind you. Filip Hrgović versus David Allen. That took place this morning. I am about to make a video talking about that. Apologies I didn't get it out earlier today. Had other stuff going on. I'm going to rewatch the fight, make my video, upload it this afternoon. You know what else I'm going to do this afternoon? I'm going to go back and watch that Netflix event. I don't know if any of you guys watched it. Apparently the Mike Perry versus Nate Diaz fight was unbelievable. And Gina Serrano, I hope she beats Ronda Rousey. I'm not a very big fan of Ronda Rousey. I think she's a bit of an arrogant prick. So hopefully Gina Carano at 40 years of age, looking great for 40, mind you, goes and wins that fight. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you guys thought of Keyshawn Davis's performance today and some of these other decisions that were just fucking dreadful. Like, subscribe. I'm out of you guys. See ya.